Well, after how bad I did in terms of my prediction for the round of 16 games, I'm off to a great start in terms of my prediction for the quarterfinal games. Because I did predict that New England was going to go into Orlando and pull off an upset in this one. And in the end, that is exactly what they did, as they were able to win 3-1 in this game to pull off the upset to move on into the Eastern Conference Final. And this win for New England was a combination of them once again showing why whenever they play on the road, they are a force to be reckoned with, and the fact that Orlando completely lost their composure in this game. I mean, there was just many times where these Orlando City players was just losing their cool in this game, and it's unsurprisingly that they actually finished this game without their full starting 11 and didn't finish this game with 11 men, and they suffer a red card throughout this game. Now, before we talk about this game, first of all, no Kwan and Galese in this game for Orlando because both of them got a red card in the last game, so that means they're going to be suspended for this one. Well, for New England, they pretty much gone with the same starting 11 coming into this game, except I think there was one change that Bruce Arena made coming into this game against Orlando City. But in the first half, and really for the first 10 minutes, despite the fact that there was not much that was happening and that Orlando was kind of having most of the possession, that was really the only time where things were kind of a little bit boring, because for the rest of the game, that's when things get a little bit crazy. In the 15th minute, Rousseau basically brought down Buchanan in the box, which gave a penalty for New England, and Carlos Hill make no mistake from the penalty spot to convert the penalty and give New England a 1-0 lead. Although Orlando, they was once again started to try to push for the equalizer, and I guess throughout this game it was pretty clear that New England was going with the tactics where they're just going to sit back and trying to weather the numerous storm that Orlando is trying to put against them, and that we're going to also try to hit them on the counterattack and hope that that would be successful. And it looked like that was successful in the 26th minute, because despite the fact that they were definitely getting pressure from this Orlando City attack, they went on a lethal counterattack during this play, and this lethal counterattack would lead to a goal with Gustavo Bo basically puts it in to make it 2-0 in favor of New England. I believe originally Buxa actually hits the post after Buchanan was able to feed a beautiful ball to him, but fortunately for New England, that ball that bounced off the post was able to find right to Gustavo Bo, who was in the right place, right time to easily tap it in for the easiest goal that he'll ever score to make it 2-0 in favor of New England. And at that point, you can clearly see Orlando was getting frustrated, and this is kind of also when Orlando started to just kind of lose their composure, and that we're going to see multiple times in this game where Orlando's player, every time there was a foul against them or a foul that they probably should have got, they would immediately go to the referee face and start to yell at the referee to make their case. Now, in the 34th minute, they did get handed a lifeline and in some way a gift from New England after Urso basically give a goal back for Orlando City, but this was more due to the fact that there was a rare mix-up between Kessler and Turner, and with how good this backline is, and with how good Kessler and Matt Turner has been this season, this was definitely a rare scenes of them just having a bit of a mix-up. I believe Kessler was trying to clear the ball, but he kind of did a swing and a miss, and because of the fact that Turner kind of backs out of it because he knows that Kessler was going to clear the ball. Once Kessler didn't clear the ball, the ball was just kind of bouncing into the box, which end up with Urso basically just slots it home after a poor mistake from the New England back line. But yeah, the mistake, of course, were able to get them back into the game, and they definitely seemed like they were alive again, and that was they were really once again pushing New England to try to get the equalizer. But as we've seen multiple times in this game, just as you think Orlando was potentially going to get that second goal, and that New England seems like they were unraveling after they either gave up a goal or the fact that the momentum was not with them anymore, they always find a way to try to create their chances. And and tried to score their third goal, and they almost did it in the 37th minute when Brian Rowe was able to deny Buxa from long range. But I also felt that this game was really coming alive after, as I mentioned, for the first 15 minutes of this game, there wasn't really much that happened in this one, and that really the first 15 minutes was really the most boring part for the rest of the game, because as we head into the second half, despite the fact that Orlando continued to control the game and that New England was happy to sit back and counter. Remember I told you how these Orlando players were losing their cool, and there was definitely a lack of composure? Well, it showed at the hour mark when Mauricio Pereira, with an inexcusable nasty challenge on Matt Polster, who was not even going on the attack and was just kind of in no position in terms of the fact that he could potentially score a goal or even a goal scoring threat opportunity, and that of course is an automatic red card for Mauricio Pereira. Although what I'm very surprised about this instant is that the Orlando City players was just surrounding the referee, and Nani actually got a yellow card after this red card because he didn't make some contact with the referee, and that, you know, when you make contact with the referee, yeah, that usually means that it could also be an ejection, and that I think Nani kind of got away with the way that if you make contact with the referee, sometimes the referee could potentially get out the red card there. But it's just shocking the fact that, you know, that challenge that Pereira put on Polster was a definition of a red card. Like, if any referee want to see what an actual red card looks like in a soccer game, this is a perfect example of it, with him just kind of going studs up and almost put a let breaker challenge on Matt Polster. And the fact that Orlando City players were kind of surround the ref after that challenge, you know, I just don't understand why exactly did they decide to do that. And that also, I understand that, you know, you don't want to have to play a playoff game down to 10 men for the remaining of the game, and that, you know, referee, they tends to be a little bit more lenient in the playoffs in terms of heading out a red card because they don't want to ruin the game. But at the same time, that was just such a clear red card, and the fact that Orlando City players was just kind of complains about it just kind of shows what kind of day that they had, where again they just had no composure whatsoever. And that it's kind of sad that I think after this game, you know, even though I know Orlando had a good season and that I think they should be proud of how far they went, I think after the end of this game there's going to be a lot of discussion about why in the world did these players lose their heads, and why did Oscar Pereira not control this team? I mean, as good and as much credit I have give to Oscar Pereira this season, this was kind of really surprising, the fact that he was not really telling his guy to just calm down a little bit. I mean, just don't lose your heads like that. That could eventually cost us the game and get ourselves eliminated. Now, in the 60th minute, Orlando did had a shout for a penalty after Buchanan looked like he tapped Mueller onto the ground, and I thought that probably was a good call, the fact that it was not being called a penalty. And the reason why I say probably is because I have seen times where, even though it looked like when a defender basically lightly tap an attacker, and that usually when that happens, and in the case, I think Chris Mueller realized that anytime when you're an attacker and you feel like any contact from a defender, you obviously want to go to the ground to make sure you draw the penalty. And that, again, I've seen that being called a penalty before, but I guess this time the referee was not sold the fact that there was enough contact to being called a penalty, and therefore the penalty, of course, was not given. Before, in the 67th minute, Rowe actually had to make a couple of saves. First, denied ball from long range, and actually made an incredible full stretch save to deny ball, who actually hit that very well, despite the fact that he hit it about 25 yards out. But then the very next play, he had to once again deny ball again, but this time it was relatively a much easier save, with the shot not really generate a lot of power, and it was kind of low that was bending toward the left side of the post. But despite the fact that New England had a couple of chances to potentially get that third goal, Orlando were also continued to push to try to get the equalizer, and after there was no penalty that was given to them at the hour mark, they were given a penalty in the second minute when Polster basically brought down DK down in the box, which gave a penalty for Orlando City. Nani, of course, steps up in the box to look to convert the penalty, and I was kind of surprised to see Nani take this penalty because, I know Nani, of course, is the designated penalty kick taker for this team, but after him missing a couple of penalties before coming into this game, I was kind of surprised they did not even think about trying to switch a different penalty kick taker to potentially score on the penalty spot, and that, unsurprisingly, with how bad the record with Nani taking penalties in the last couple of games, he wasn't able to convert this penalty either. Although I will say that this was a great save from Matt Turner with the way that he clearly guessed this one right and made a full stretch save to his right to deny Nani from the spot. But again, it was very surprising seeing that Nani, of course, was taking the penalty, even though he just have not had a good record with penalty kick take this season. But despite the fact that was kind of a big missed opportunity for Orlando, I thought they kind of also sent a message to New England that they're giving them a warning that they are going to eventually get that second goal. And I thought New England was thinking probably should not just kind of like shut down shop and just basically sit back in the last 10 minutes. But instead, that is exactly what happened. And if you actually watch this game, you would be surprised that New England was actually up a man in this game, because it looked like they were the one that were down a man with how conservative that they were playing, and that I was also kind of started to worry that eventually that's going to come back to haunt them and that New England was going to concede the goal. But like I said before, every time you think Orlando is going to get that second goal, and every time when you think New England, their defense is going to bend over from the pressure that Orlando was given, it was just not the case in this one. And instead, in the 86th minute, Gustavo Bo scores from Kyo and Buxa to make it 3-1, and that is pretty much game, set, and match in this game, as that 2-goal cushion pretty much seal any chance for Orlando to potentially come back in this one. And in the end, that was the final score of this match as New England pull off a big upset against Orlando City. And the shots in this game, 11 shots compared to 9 that New England has, 3 shots on goal compared to 6 that New England has, 5 shots off target compared to 3 that New England has, 3 shots that was blocked compared to none that New England has, and possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that New England has. And as I said, New England, they're moving on into the Eastern Conference Final, and that I don't think any refs fan, if I would have told them at the beginning of the playoffs that they would actually be moving on into the Eastern Conference Final, I don't think that a lot of people would believe that of course is going to happen, and that especially with how tough the Eastern Conference is and with all those good teams that they have to face, nobody would have thought that this team would get into the conference final. But that being said, this is also a team that, like I said, when they're playing on the road, there's just something about this team being a team that always do well whenever they play on the road, and all those problems that they had whenever they're playing at home seems to just magically disappear when they are playing on the road. And also, they have probably would go down as the greatest head coach to ever coach in MLS, and also probably the greatest U.S. head coach, or the greatest American head coach of all time in Bruce Arena, where I said in that Union game, it seemed like he has definitely turned back the clock with him once again making some magical playoff run with the team that he's coaching. Well, now I really believe that he has turned back the clock, and that this is another classic example of Bruce Arena, where whenever a Bruce Arena team in MLS is probably going to go deep into the playoffs, because that's what he does every time when he coach in the MLS. And that I won't be surprised if New England can even go all the way to MLS Cup, especially when you look at the remaining opponent that they could potentially face, Columbus and Nashville. Those are two teams that are definitely beatable team if New England, of course, is facing them. And keep in mind, they're also facing both of those teams on the road no matter what. And given how good they have been on the road, it just feels like they are just more comfortable playing on the road compared to when they're playing at home, which, again, that just kind of goes against all kind of logic of what usually MLS team is good at. But this is 2020, and 2020 is kind of a weird year, and that we could continue to see some even more weird thing happen where, if Nashville does pull off the upset against Columbus tonight, we could potentially have a conference final where the 7th seed will be playing against the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. And tell me, when is the last time that we ever seen a 7th seed play against an 8th seed in the Eastern Conference? In fact, I don't think that has ever happened, because of the way that this is really the first season in MLS where we had this many teams make it to the playoff, and yet nobody would have thought that heading into the Eastern Conference final, we have all those teams that had home field advantage, and all those top 4 team, or even the top 6 team in the Eastern Conference, all getting knocked out in the early round. And later on, we just found out that the team that represent the Eastern Conference might be an unlikely team, that is maybe the New England Revolution, Columbus, or even Nashville heading in to that. But we shall see how that game is going to turn out later tonight between the Crew and Nashville, and I'm pretty sure New England is going to closely watch that game to see who they are going to get. But for Orlando, as I said, this is definitely a disappointing way to end the year. I mean, there's no shame the fact that they, of course, got eliminated into the conference semifinal after such an incredible year, and just such a great turnaround that they had compared to their first 4 season in their existence. But the way that they went out is probably the thing that is going to annoy Oscar Pereira, and probably annoy a couple of Orlando City fans, where they kind of just gone out with a whimper and kind of become a bit of a sore loser with the mentality that they were playing in this game against the Refs. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this game? And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.